I know a place where you can get fresh coffee downtown, spot giraffes on your lunch break, and then catch a flight to another fantastic city. This is Nairobi, Africa's crossroads of culture and nature. It's a playground, but with an authentic spirit, and the perfect starting point for an African adventure. I am a big fan of travel to Africa, and if you've seen some of my other videos, you might have already picked up on that. I know, it's a broad statement, it's a continent, but I've gotten to visit 11 different African countries, and each one has held such unique things and been the gateway to so many interesting and really memorable interaction. That said, I finally got to make it out to Kenya for the very first time. I stayed entirely in Nairobi, but wow. I definitely underestimated it going into this trip. It way blew my expectations out of the water. I'm realizing that if I had never been to Africa before, this would be one of the best places to start. And I'm gonna pass that on. If somebody has never visited Africa before, but has an interest in getting started, one of your best starting points just might be Nairobi. So I think a lot of people anticipate getting some nature experiences out of their visit to Africa, which makes total sense because of all the wildlife you can find there and nowhere else in the world. But I don't like to promote just safaris, just animals and nature without experiences with people too. I think as a city, Nairobi kind of gives you the best of both worlds. It's an urban center with great, easy access to a lot of nature and wildlife. Within a 3-hour drive of the city, you've got 4 national parks. There's Hell's Gate National Park, Mount Longonot, and Mount Kenya. And the 4th one is actually in the city. Nairobi National Park sits just at the edge of the city, and it's a legit national park managed by the Kenyan Wildlife Service. From the center of town, you can take a taxi ride and get there within like 30 or 40 minutes. These are also not national parks, but there are 2 wildlife reserve type areas located within the city. There's Ngong Hills, and there's also the forest sanctuary within northern Nairobi. On top of that, there are several wildlife encounter type experiences you can get in town. Now, when it comes to wildlife experiences and especially animal encounters, the ethics of these are all over the place, so I suggest just figuring out, do some of your own research into, the conversations there, and then figure out what you're okay with too, because there's gray areas all over the place. I already mentioned Nairobi National Park. I think this is about as ethically sound as it gets. It's a true wild ecosystem, even though it's, within the city limits, and the Kenyan Wildlife Service is on top of things as far as managing it. As far as animal experiences go, there's the David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust Elephant Organization, big long name, but they work with poached, injured elephants at risk of drought, and they're a rehabilitation center for the most part. They're a really respected NGO, and so these encounters are not going to be hands-on, as they probably shouldn't be, but if you do want to get a closer look at elephants and do so in a way that is positive, there's another option for you. Speaking of close-up animal encounters, this is the Giraffe Center. These are Rothschild giraffes. They are very gentle and very okay around people, so you get close interactions. You can hand feed them, so there's some gray area there. There's debate and conversation around some of the effects of hand feeding and habituation and all that, but aside from that, which I think is kind of a gray, you're on this elevated platform. The giraffes are free roaming, and the place seems to put an effort towards promoting conservation and proper animal care. Speaking of the debates around habituation and hand feeding, you may have seen that popular social media hotel, the Giraffe Manor, where people can eat a breakfast in a schmancy hotel and a giraffe will occasionally poke its head in the window. Those are probably the exact same conversations, but intensified, and the giraffes are on site of a hotel. Some places I do have more concerns about that seem to still be pretty popular are the Nairobi Animal Orphanage and the Nairobi Snake Park. Okay, second reason why Nairobi might make for a good entry point is life in Kenya is evolving at a pretty rapid pace. So, within the past 12 years, Kenya went from having about 20% of its households having access to electricity now to 70%. Like, think about what that means. It means like half of all Kenyans gained that access to electricity within the past decade or so. And Kenya is not a small country to accomplish this feat. That in and of itself is good news. Of course, it means better opportunities for jobs. It means better education because kids can study even when it gets dark early. But it gets even better from there. Almost all of that electricity has been generated off of renewable sources. And as you see more and more countries expand access to electricity, expand access to technology, that's actually probably the top opportunity for clean energy transitions. It's in places like Kenya. It's just something I didn't think about a whole lot before visiting Nairobi, but now I can't unsee it. I recognize the math and how much that's going to matter. Speaking of technology and it making life easier, the infrastructure was solid. The roads were pretty easy to navigate relative to most African cities its size, and Uber and Bolt are both working there. They're working well, so that makes getting around so much easier than it was before those things. All right, number 3, what Nairobi has going for it is just a fun, exciting city with a lot of hangout spots. And if you're visiting a place for fun, you're gonna want those. I can speak for the Nairobi Street Kitchen, which is just this pod full of mostly restaurants, bars, coffee shops, and little boutiques. You're going to want to visit there several times because there's so many good options of spots to eat. A spot that you might visit just once per trip would be Carnivore. So if you've been to a Brazilian churrascaria, you know, the type of place where they've gone around with different steaks and cuts of meat on swords in an all-you-can-eat fashion. Nairobi's Carnivore does this, but in a way that's adapted to Africa. You'll find more out there items. You'll find crocodile. You might find kudu, or I'm trying to think of some other eccentric things. But you'll also find, you know, just typical steaks and chickens and whatnot. If you want a restaurant that has more of an artsy vibe to it, then Honey and Dough is a good option. There are a lot of Afrobeat and reggae lounges around, so it's got a nightlife, but it's also got this thing that's kind of like a chiller step down from nightlife, early evening life. There's a spot in Parklands, the K1 Clubhouse Night Market. It kind of combines like the feeling of a street food market with a sports bar, a karaoke club, so it's just a good general hangout spot. Kind of similar is Pawa 254, maybe a bit more daytime oriented, but there you'll find outdoor concerts, some gatherings, a lot of cultural festival. There's a lot of fun bars. 2 that I'll point out are there's Gecko Cafe over in the Livingston area. That's a hybrid car wash cafe, and you'll find live music and cocktails and coffee drinks. Then there's the Hero Bar in Gigiri, which is a superhero-themed nightclub rooftop bar, and they've got pretty good tapas. Nairobi has a pretty good coffee shop culture. Like, people love hanging out in cafes, and there's several big chains like Java House where people will do that. Another good reason Nairobi serves as an effective gateway into Africa is because it can literally be that. It's one of the best connected cities within Africa, and one of the challenging things about African countries sometimes is places are not that well connected with each other, sometimes even though they're close on a map. Thankfully, Nairobi is one of those airports that's well connected. You know, I think you've got some in Morocco and Egypt and North Africa, and then Cape Town and Johannesburg. But as far as East Africa goes, it's second only to Addis Ababa in terms of connections. This is great because Kenya's got some great neighbors to visit as well. This is great because Kenya's got some fun neighbors to go visit. To the north, you have Ethiopia, which is actually, I think, my personal favorite African country to visit. Might be a little bit tougher for a first spot, but the cultural heritage of Ethiopia is so rich and pronounced. So if you had more time, it's not impossible to connect them both on the same trip. Or you could go south, and then you've got Tanzania, and you've got Kilimanjaro and the Serengeti and some great national parks and safari opportunities there. you can go west to Uganda, and that's another well-connected country that has a lot of good hospitality. And if you go just a bit further, you get Rwanda, which I think Kigali might come close to Nairobi in terms of its idealness as an entry point. Of course, I should mention, you can also have a great time within Kenya, just seeing different parts of it. So if you want a coastal experience, Lamu on the east coast is great. I don't know why I specified the east coast. There's only one coast. Or if you want a city with a lot of interesting food history and great options, check out Mombasa. If you make it to the southwest, you'll find an area full of national parks, the Masai Mara, and some lakes. And so there, Eldoret or Kisumu can serve as good gateway cities for those experiences. And if you have an interest in running, or you're just fascinated with Kenya's running culture, that's actually why I went, was for the Nairobi Marathon. But there's a few small towns, almost villages, that have this long history of being training hubs for some of the world's top runners. I'm thinking of places like Iten. You kind of have to find a guide or a fixer or some way to get there, but it's doable and could be really interesting, especially if you're really into running. All right, if you keep up with world news, you might be aware that there's been a little bit of drama around Kenya, particularly Nairobi. I will still say that keep an eye on it, like even beyond. I will still say keep an eye on it, like beyond your personal safety. Just that's a interesting crossroads that the country finds itself in. Nairobi and Kenya is still one of the most stable African countries. So as far as safety goes, it's still one of your best options. Nairobi has, maybe it still has, this nickname of night robbery because of street crime. So I'm not going to say don't let your guard down, but I'll say compared to a lot of other places I've been, compared to Johannesburg, for example, I felt like I didn't have to be nearly as guarded the entire time, especially when you're in different parts of Nairobi. But do know what neighborhood you're in and pay attention to it. I don't want to just offer this like sanitized, whitewashed, tourism-friendly portrait of Nairobi. There is real stuff going on. I think a great way that I got introduced to that was through George, and he actually now runs this storytelling tour. He's a former street kid who grew up in a part of Nairobi you still might not want to walk through, but he'll walk you through it with you, and he's well respected in that area, and he'll just share with you his stories of growing up in this setting. I think it's really important that if stories are being told about settings like Nairobi, it should be from people like George telling their own story. There's a big NGO presence in Nairobi and Kenya overall. Partly because of projects within Kenya, but also partly because it's so well connected. Some of these NGOs, and again, nonprofits, NGOs, are a bit like those wildlife encounters where their ethical handling of things can be all over the place. So look up what you're okay with. But a few of them do lean into the tourism opportunities around Nairobi. One I can think of is Kobe Beads, which uses the production of handicrafts to create entrepreneurship opportunities for women. And they run a shop there that you can purchase from, along with demos and hospitality opportunities at their center. If you've never visited Africa before and want to get started, Nairobi is a great place. If you visited Africa before but you haven't been to Nairobi, you should still check it out. There's just a lot to do. It's very diverse in terms of activities, in terms of landscapes, and a great blend of urban and natural experiences. Don't know when I'll be back, but I'm definitely looking forward to whenever that is.